Good morning. I'm here with Charley O'Hara, and we were just chatting a little bit. We've been talking a lot, lately in the news about some different cases where there's going to be court involved, federal, local, state. It gets very confusing, I think, for people, and so I thought you could use some of your expertise here to maybe kind of dumb it down for all of us that aren't super legal experts and understand the differences between some of these courts here.
Well, I don't know to dumb it down. It's pretty simple, actually. But what happens is we have basically in the Wichita area three courts, actually 3 levels of court. There's a whole bunch of different courts at each one of them, but there's the City of Wichita Court, and then there's the State Court, and then there's the United States Federal Court, as we call it. So they're all kind of in a corridor very close to each other, but in the city building exists the City Court, where like there would be domestic violences, speeding tickets, DUIs in the city. Unless they were felonies, they're all misdemeanors, which means you can't have over a year in any of those. You can't have, your punishment's never over a year. You can't go to prison. You'd only go to jail. Most of them are fine cases. Most people are fined unless they mess up. State court is where the majority of the cases we talk about in the news and everywhere else are. That's where the felonies are. There's a lot of traffic offenses outside the city there. And there, the DUIs that become felonies are there, the domestic violences that become felonies are there, the murder cases, the murder cases that involve the death penalty are all in state court. And there's federal court, which is thought, at least by the legal community, be one of the most serious, and that's where they have like the big racketeering crimes, the big drug crimes, gun crimes, and other crimes that you read about in the news. So you have all 3 of those courts in Wichita. Now, each city, like the city of Mays, the city of Park City, Augusta, all those cities, Derby, they all have their own court. Goddard has their own court. So they would have their own city court, and those all exist too. So the attorneys have, that are practicing in that area have a lot of different courts they can go to. There's an awful lot of judges, and there's a lot going on in the legal community. All the divorces and those kind of things, most of the civil cases where people sue each other are only in the state court. Occasionally, some of the civil cases go to federal court, but usually they're all in the state court.
Okay, yeah, quite a bit there. I thought something that was interesting when I was in college, I was learning about the Supreme Court, and they don't hear some cases that people think they would. Like, they don't deal with murder cases or anything like that, right?
Well, they do, actually.
Okay.
The Kansas Supreme Court does deal with
national Supreme. I was thinking like the National Supreme Court.
Well, they would deal at times with them depending on how they get there, but there's all these rules about how you get there. And not every case gets to the Supreme Court. In fact, we even have in Kansas a Court of Appeals that normally, for most cases, you go to the Court of Appeals first, and then the Supreme Court would decide if they want to take a case. They don't have to take it. Now, there's some exceptions to that. They go directly to the Supreme Court, but we have those levels of court too here, just in Kansas. And then, of course, we have a federal Court of Appeals and the United States Supreme Court. So
wow, yeah,
there's lots of courts around.
Definitely a lot there. I guess the point is you don't really want to go to any of them, right?
It's best to avoid court if you can.
Right. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate you being on.
Right.
We're going to take a quick break here. Your time now is 8:52.